All right, welcome. My name is Jenny Nelson, and I am from the E-Verify division at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. I'm going to give you the quick overview of E-Verify for federal contractors. As you probably know, the E-Verify program is required for most federal contractors. So we're going to talk about the requirements that are within those guidelines specifically for federal contractors. And because we have a short time frame today, I'm not going to get into all of the details or all into the weeds for all of this, but I'll give you the basics for federal contractors, some of the things you need to be aware of and decisions that you need to make as a federal contractor. And then if you need more information or more training on E-Verify for federal contractors, certainly reach out to me. We've got a team here at E-Verify who conduct training and help employers specifically with this type of thing. So let's jump in. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk about kind of E-Verify overall, federal contractor requirements, and then we'll wrap up with resources. So first of all, E-Verify in general, what is it? If you're not already familiar, E-Verify is a completely free program operated by the Department of Homeland Security in partnership with the Social Security Administration, and it allows employers to electronically verify that a new hire is legally able to work in the United States. Now, as a federal contractor, you are also allowed to create cases for your existing employees. And those could be existing employees assigned to that federal contract or your entire workforce. So we're going to talk about that in a little more detail because those are some of the decisions that you need to make as a federal contractor. Here we have a few things that E-Verify is not. Sometimes there's some misconceptions out there about what E-Verify can do, so we like to clear those up right at the beginning. E-Verify is not a system that provides immigration status. It's only telling you if this person is legally authorized to work in the U.S. or not. It's also not to be used for pre-screening, meaning there must be a job offered and accepted by your employee before creating a case for them in E-Verify. And then finally, it's not a safe harbor from worksite enforcement. Obviously, this just means that although you've enrolled to use E-Verify, it doesn't necessarily mean that you would never be inspected again. However, it does show good faith on your part that you're doing everything you can to ensure a legal workforce at your company, and you're also meeting those requirements of your federal contract. All right, so how does this really work? E-Verify basically allows you to take the information from your employees' Form I-9 that they're already providing to you anyway. That Form I-9 is required by law, so you should be completing and retaining a Form I-9 for each of your employees. You're taking that Form I-9 information, keying it into E-Verify, which then queries millions of government records to tell you if a new hire is legally authorized to work or not. Now, we're not going to get into the details and the nitty-gritty of how E-Verify works specifically, but again, if that's something that you'd like to know, just reach back out to me or my team, and we can always provide you that information or additional training. What we're really going to focus on, though, today are the requirements for federal contractors specifically, because it is a little bit different than for a general employer. All right, so you can see here that the final rule has actually been in place for quite some time for federal contractors. As of September 8th of 2009, that FAR final rule requires that as a condition of the contract, federal contractors as well as their subcontractors must use E-Verify to verify their employees' eligibility to work in the United States. There are three types of contracts that are affected. The first is the prime contract, and then that requirement flows down to subcontracts. And the other type is the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity type of contract. It's also going to be your government contracting official, not the E-Verify program, that determines whether your federal contract will include the FAR E-Verify clause or not. So you should always review your contract for that FAR E-Verify clause, and then of course check with your contracting official if you've got any questions about it. So first of all, we've got these prime contracts, and this is going to qualify for the FAR E-Verify clause if that contract was awarded or modified on or after the effective rule date of September 8th of 2009. If the contract is above the simplified acquisition threshold, the period of performance is 120 days or more. At least some of that contract work is performed in the United States, and the contract is not solely for commercially available off-the-shelf or COTS items. You can always review that FAR final rule at regulations.gov. I'm also going to give you some links a little bit later about where you can find this information on the E-Verify website. So it's that prime contractor that is the legal entity bound by the FAR E-Verify clause and needs to ensure that the clause is included in any qualifying subcontracts. So the criteria for a subcontract is that the value of the contract is more than $3,500. The subcontract is for commercial or non-commercial services or construction. At least some of that work is performed in the US, and it's not solely for contracts that are those commercially available off the shelf or COTS items or services like we talked about. And then finally are the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, sometimes referred to as IDIQ contracts. And these qualify for the FAR E-Verify clause if that contract was awarded for a period of performance that extends at least 6 months beyond September 8th of 2009, and there's a substantial amount of work or number of orders expected during the remaining period of performance. At that point, then, the contract could be bilaterally modified to include the FAR E-Verify clause. All right, so those are the 3 types of contracts that may need the FAR E-Verify clause. Next, we're going to talk about the time frame required for a federal contractor. If your contract has that FAR E-Verify clause, either it was awarded to you or maybe modified to include the clause, you have 30 calendar days from that award or modification date to enroll in E-Verify, or if you're already enrolled in E-Verify, to update your company profile. So if you're an existing E-Verify employer and you need to update your company profile, you'll simply log into your E-Verify homepage, click on Company on that top ribbon, and then go to the Edit Company Profile. From there, you will then update your company profile to include your updated organization designation, your federal contractor category, meaning you're a federal contractor with the FAR E-Verify clause, and then which employees you're going to verify. And we're going to talk about that in a little more detail later. So that's it. I mean, it's really pretty easy if you're already enrolled in E-Verify. You just want to make sure that you are updating your profile with these steps prior to creating any cases in E-Verify for those existing employees. Then, if you're not enrolled in E-Verify, you'd be a new user to the program. Enrollment's pretty easy as well. You'll just go to our everify.gov website, and then there's an enrollment link in the top right-hand corner of that screen. Next, you'll be taken to the enrollment page, which has a lot of information about enrollment, the enrollment process, the enrollment checklist. You can also check to see if your company is maybe already enrolled in E-Verify, but you weren't aware of that. When you're ready to enroll, you'll just go to the top and click the Enroll Now link, and that starts the enrollment process. All right, so going back to those federal contractor requirements, let's say you've already modified your company profile or you've already enrolled, you need to ensure that you understand who to verify within E-Verify. So you've got some options here as a federal contractor, and these are unique to federal contractors. All other employers using E-Verify can only use the program for your new hires only. As a federal contractor, however, you have the choice to verify all new hires organization-wide, plus existing employees assigned to the federal contract, or your entire workforce. So this is going to include all new hires throughout the company as well as all existing employees throughout the company. And this is a choice available to federal contractors. There's also a couple of instances when you will not use E-Verify for an existing employee, and that's if the employee was hired on or before November 6th of 1986. The reason for this is that they didn't need to have a Form I-9 on file prior to that. Therefore, you wouldn't create an E-Verify case for them. Or the other one is for employees who were confirmed as employment authorized for your company already. You're already using E-Verify. You've already got that employment authorized result. So you wouldn't need to create a case in E-Verify for those folks either. And then you have some choices, whether or not you want to run certain people through E-Verify as well. And again, this is unique to federal contractors too. So those choices are for new and existing employees with an active, confidential, secret, or top secret security clearance, or existing employees who perform support work. So this could be administrative staff or overhead staff or staff who has indirect work on that contract. Now, this second bullet only applies if you are not choosing to use E-Verify for your entire workforce. If you chose entire workforce, these employees under the second bullet would be required as well. And then there's also some special category employers who can choose to limit their E-Verify cases to those new employees working on the federal contract and existing employees assigned to the federal contract. We're looking at those special categories here, and these would be designated within your E-Verify account. So they are institutions of higher learning, state and local governments, federally recognized Indian tribes, and then sureties. And then the time frame for creating those cases in E-Verify. So we see that once that contract's been awarded, you've got those 30 calendar days to either modify or get enrolled in E-Verify. From that point in time, then, you have 90 days from your enrollment or company modification to begin creating cases for newly hired employees. You have that same 90-day time frame if you chose to create cases for existing employees assigned to the federal contract. However, if you made the choice to use E-Verify for all of your existing employees throughout your company, you have a total of 180 days from your enrollment to begin or to create those cases for your existing employees. This time frame is a little bit longer because obviously this could be substantially more employees, so we wanted to make sure you had plenty of time to get all of those existing employees' cases created. Next, when you are creating cases in E-Verify for those existing employees, you need to know what to do with the existing Form I-9 for those employees. So for this, you have a couple options as well. And this is going to be an internal choice that you will make at your company, but not one that will be designated within E-Verify. So the other things we've talked about so far, you will designate within your company profile. This one you won't. This is just a choice at your company, but you do need to be consistent in your choice and use option 1 for all employees or option 2 for all of those existing employees. And I will tell you that option 2 requires a little more diligence on your part, but if you have a small staff, it might be a good option for your organization. Option 2 is to complete new Form I-9s when required and update existing Forms I-9 when allowed. So I've given you a live link at the bottom of this slide where you can find instructions for completing a new Form I-9 or updating the existing Form I-9. Again, that's just going to be for option 2. Option 1 is to just blanket complete a new Form I-9 for all employees who will be run through E-Verify. If you are choosing option 1, you would still retain the existing Form I-9 that you had previously completed, attach the new to the old, that way you're maintaining historic documentation. All right, so I know that was a lot of information very quickly, but I'm going to give you a link to our supplemental guide for federal contractors and where you can find additional information for all of the topics that we've talked about as well. First of all, again, I'm on that outreach team here at E-Verify, and we can provide additional training to meet your company's needs. So maybe you're a new federal contractor, your contract contains that FAR E-Verify clause. We can always set up a free training specifically for your organization so that we can guide you through that process and make sure you understand the requirements for federal contractors. We can also authorize the use of the E-Verify logo, and that can then be added to your job announcements or your website so that potential employees know that you are enrolled in E-Verify, and if they're hired with your company, their information will be entered and run through E-Verify. Here we have that list of websites. The top 2 are the Supplemental Guide for Federal Contractors, as well as our E-Verify Federal Contractors website. In addition to that, I've added I-9 Central, which is kind of a one-stop shop for all things Form I-9, and then our basic everify.gov webpage. Currently, we also have some temporary policies surrounding employment verification for both Form I-9 and E-Verify. And you can find those temporary policies on our COVID-19 temporary policies page. And then finally, our customer contact center. We have 1-800 numbers that you can contact us through if you've got questions, or use our email addresses. If you're like me and you like to have things in writing, you can always reach out to us through one of these resources if you have questions or need additional information. And that will wrap it up for me today. Thank you so much for joining my session and learning a little bit more about E-Verify for federal contractors. Thank you.